Two millennial caregivers keeping it real with a beautiful, chaotic, and sometimes what the moments of being a caregiver. One with data analytics,
and the other with creative self-care hacks. Because sometimes you need those hard facts, and sometimes you just need a really good yap.
We're here to help caregivers not just survive, but thrive. Whether that means tracking progress with receipts and lists, or mastering the art of sneaking in some respite without guilt.
This podcast is for caregivers who want solutions, but also need a space where they feel seen, heard, and low-key entertained.
Thank you, Stephanie, for being here.
I'm so excited for this conversation. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're so excited.
A little bit about my background. We've already talked about this. I'm a caregiver for 2 kids. I've cared for my ex-husband, who is a veteran. I've cared for my in-laws, and currently I'm caring for my parents now. So a lot. So burnout is real, but this time around, I'm really trying to balance my care with their care. A lot of that has to do with communication. A lot of that has to do with, really, it's just communication. Trying to figure out what they want, what I want, and then finding the time to kind of organize that. I really am struggling a little bit with finding the time and not feeling guilty.
Yes. I mean, I can relate to that 100%. So I hear you.
Yeah. And I think what we're really curious is just how would you describe guilt manifesting in caregiving, and maybe like some offerings on practical reframes for it when we're in a situation like that?
Yeah. So guilt in caregiving can be pretty complicated. I think when we're coming into a caregiver experience, a lot of times there is love and care associated, or the person who's stepping forward. Caregivers don't do this because they don't care. They do it because they care. And unfortunately, along with that comes, I know what I need to do. I know all of the things that have to be done. And oftentimes I can't do it all. Like it's impossible. And so I think in that we can feel a lot of guilt as caregivers. As I said, I've been there. You just named it too. Most people I work with have that coming up, and they don't even recognize that that's what it is a lot of the time. So I think when we're talking about reframing, it's important to first take a step back and recognize that it's guilt to begin with, because we can't reframe guilt if we don't know that it's guilt. And I would say that 90% of people that have not engaged in some sort of therapeutic experience or looking at deeper emotions don't know that it's guilt. So yeah, I think that would be step number one is what is this? Is this even guilt? Like, why are you pushing yourself in that direction?
Wow, that's really powerful. So then if we don't have the language for what we're feeling, it makes it even more difficult to actualize what it is that we are feeling. And
yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Guilt is another thing, is that people will recognize once they know that it's guilt, that it's really this, I don't want to call it a voice, but it is kind of this thing that's popping in our head. That's this thought saying, you shouldn't do that, or you need to do more, or how come you don't do that? And for a lot of us, that's an automatic replay over and over in our heads, especially if that's something that was taught to us in childhood, which guilt does come from childhood experiences, or it can, and it can be exacerbated when we are caregiving. So it's not so easy to name it as guilt if it's something that's really kept us in line throughout our life. And I'm not saying that as like, oh, it's a bad thing. I think, as you know, T, every parent, unfortunately, at one point or another uses guilt. It's not something that we do on purpose. And I think in the generations before us, especially my parents and parents that I know, that was a very common method. So it's something that we internalize and just do on autopilot.
I think that there's a shift that I've been noticing with like this generation where we have an ability to show up in different ways than our parents did for our grandparents. And I think that causes some guilt in some ways. I'm an only child. So like there's no competition, nor do, you know what I mean? So like there's no competition. There's no like matriarchy, hierarchy, like I don't have to worry about that. But with that said, it really is also on me. I have no one else to necessarily call and ask for. I mean, I have cousins. I mean, there's people, but as far as like understanding how to take care of my parents and my parents' life history, all the things, like there's nobody but me. So having to deal with that on top of having kids, all of those things, I'm very thankful and grateful that I have a good relationship with my parents and we communicate. So it shouldn't be too hard, but it will be also interesting to see, again, as far as the guilt's concerned, how much I'm going to hold and how much they're willing to let go, all of those things.
Guilt can be used, again, not as a purposeful technique, but when someone is asserting a boundary, guilt can actually be used in some way to try to push someone away from the boundary. And if we're going to talk about boundaries, I can explain that a bit more later on. But I just wanted to say that a very common reason why boundaries don't work is because of guilt. So guilt across the spectrum comes into play.
Well, that explains a lot. Okay. Okay.
I was like, what did I say? What happened? Yeah.
Wow. Give me a moment. Gotta let that marinate. Wait a minute. Whew. That was good.
No, that's too real.
Wow. So this whole time I've been running around like a chicken without a head trying to figure it out. What's wrong with these boundaries? That's why. Okay. Makes sense. Okay.
But is that because of our guilt? I guess it's our guilt, right? It's not necessarily
both. So I've seen it. I've even experienced firsthand where guilt they don't say, hey, you have to be guilty, but they'll kind of jab you in a certain way where it's like, whoa, my guilt has exploded. And I know in some cultures, guilt is used a lot more than others. And I can say that I've put very great boundaries up in the past, and I have been jabbed with guilt, and that has led me to feel guilty and therefore question why I'm putting, like, can I even maintain these boundaries? Can I put these boundaries up? It's not worth feeling this way. A lot of people move away from boundaries because they don't want to feel the intermediate emotions. It's too much for them. And so they just decide it's not worth it for me to sit in the feeling. I might as well just not have the boundary.
And then that creates self-abandonment and eventually self-sabotage.
Correct.
Yep. Animosity,
like apathy. Let's go ahead. Yep.
Okay. All the things.
So then what would you recommend as some tools that caregivers can use if they're at the point where they're going to release these boundaries and not use them anymore? What tools can they use so that they can continue with their boundaries?
It's a good question. It's a loaded question because it depends on the person. But I will say, first off, identifying its guilt. I use a lot of what's called ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy, in my practice. And that really looks at, can we accept the thoughts that are coming in? Can we accept those little voices that are coming in? And instead of pushing them away, just acknowledge that they're going to be there, but they don't need to take over us. They don't need to have control over us. And so I work with a lot of clients through that method so that when the guilt does come up, when we are establishing those boundaries, we can still hold space for the fact that we're going to have these uncomfortable feelings, more so in the beginning. And as we learn to work through them and do deeper work, they will still be there, but the volume will be turned down, right? And so we've got to really ride the waves of the emotions in order to get to that place where I'm setting a boundary and I'm not, like, it might be there, it might be a little smidgen of a voice, but I know what that is. So I'm just going to accept it and ride the waves. But sometimes they'll be louder and sometimes they'll be quieter, and just, that is what it is, right? And sometimes you won't be able to carry through with it. And that's fine. You're acknowledging that as a one-time situation. And then the next time you're going to try again. So acknowledging, learning to ride the waves with it, knowing it's going to be there rather than pushing it away. Because the real secret is the more you push it away, the stronger it becomes, because it's just our body trying to do what it wants to do best, which is protect us. Yeah. Right? Exactly. It's saying, hey, don't do that. That's really bad, because that's what we've learned.
Yeah. Wow.
That's so true.
That was deep, and that is so true. Exactly. Yeah, I heard someone say that at our core, we desire two things: to preserve and to please ourselves. So protecting, preserving ourselves, that makes sense that we wouldn't want to feel this awkward, uncomfortable feeling inside when it comes to getting pushback from our boundaries. So it makes sense why someone would abandon them. But I really love the tool of ACT, which is something that a caregiver can practice and even use it as a self-care tool.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, is this something that you would suggest they do maybe every day, 5 minutes, or is this just something to do when that situation comes up? What looks practical and what is sustainable?
So it really, again, depends on what you're dealing with. But when we're talking about guilt, I will typically process the emotion in the practice with them, look at why it's there, the purpose of it, recognizing the reason why it's there and what it's saying to us. Because we need to know exactly what it's saying and what it's actually doing to us. It's not just saying something. It has a physical impact. It has an impact on our entire day, and it can lead to a trickle of emotions. And so if it's really, really intense, we're taking this very, very slowly. We might just be looking at a millisecond of it and just saying, okay, we're going to feel a millisecond of guilt and you're going to move on and we're going to do this together. If it's something that's not as intense, not as strong, it's kind of coming up, but or some people have dealt with guilt before, so it's not as much, they might then just do situational things where we're working on exposing ourselves to that thought, to that feeling in the situation as it happens. But again, it's just so, there's such a large spectrum. I've worked with people who can't even possibly feel the feeling of guilt because that feeling makes them want to throw up. Like it has a visceral reaction.
Wow.
And in that case, we're taking it really, really slow.
And I like that approach because it feels safe, it feels soft, it feels gentle enough, no matter what the situation is for the specific caregiver. I really appreciate that.
I was wondering, is there like something that when those feelings or emotions come up and maybe not knowing how intense they will be when we decide to, walk through that, is there like something that we should be saying to ourselves, like some type of script that we ask ourselves, or some type of maybe body check at that point, maybe that we can do as we try and go through those emotions?
Yeah, those body scans, right?
Yeah.
Body scans.
Yes, I'm really glad you brought that up. So if you're recognizing, really what we want to do is slow things down. So let's say there's a situation that happens, I don't know, example that happened to me at one point in the last few years is that I couldn't possibly give 100% of myself to my mom and give 100% of myself to my kids. There was no way. And so these feelings of guilt would arise where I know I should be there, but I also need to be there. And I'm feeling really horrible about myself, right? You want to slow that down. So what is the voice saying to me, right? For a lot of people, it's saying you're a bad person. For a lot of people, it's saying there's something wrong with you. You're not good enough. And those are very intense emotions. And so I don't deal with guilt lightly. I also have a trauma-informed lens in that we don't know what this could possibly bring up, especially if we're talking about I'm not good enough. But a really good way to notice what it's doing to our bodies and ourselves in that moment is to do a body scan. And if people haven't heard of a body scan in the past, essentially you're going from head to toe, trying to just see what's going on in your body non-judgmentally, just noticing. So if you notice, hey, there's that guilt, or I don't even know what it's saying to me yet because I'm really early on in this experience, you're closing your eyes, you're going from the top of your head, just funneling through all the way down your body. Where am I feeling something? A lot of people will feel it in their face, in their jaw, their neck, their chest, and their stomach. Those are really, really common points. And you're just identifying, okay, I can see this is doing something to me, right? I can feel my throat clenching up, or I feel my shoulders, like I do this. Sometimes I'll be sitting, I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm like, clearly I'm stressed, right? But we don't even know if we're just starting. So that's a really good way to see. And then we can connect body signals to thoughts. So we often have automatic thoughts. And if we don't know what that's doing to us, knowing how we hold tension in our bodies is a good indicator. If we're noticing, oh my gosh, my jaw's clenched, what's wrong? What's happening? What's wrong? Let's slow this down for a second. What is making me feel this way? Right? So it goes both ways.
I'm left speechless because I was thinking about so many different experiences that I've had where I was on autopilot, just functioning in high alert. And like other people would see that I'm physically not okay, even though I'm like, no, I am, I'm fine. Everything is good. But I'm perspiring, I'm stuttering. I look like my hands are shaking. And in reality, my cortisol is spiked and I'm not well. Okay. But I didn't take the time to sit and do the body scan. Now I am, because I'm learning that it is normal to slow down and connect with my body and to listen to what the language that my body is sharing with me. Because I didn't realize that our bodies are always communicating. And so much of the time, especially like in that high alert function, so much of the time that I was really overwhelmed or overexhausted, and I was just pushing myself instead of taking a moment to slow down. And it doesn't even take that long. It's like 2 minutes or even less than that, like 60 seconds, just to really sit and think about what is happening right now. What am I feeling and why? Where is this coming from? That is really that's another good tool.
Well, our bodies and minds are so connected. If you think back to the caveman years, right? We were on high alert for threats. And so our bodies have to be in action drive, right? To be able to run away or do what we need to do or fight. But the thing is that the things that make us anxious these days, which frankly is everything, because we are just so inundated with everything, that a lot of us carry tension the entire day, right? It's not just, oh, there might be a threat, I hear leaves rustling. No, it's everything. And we have to learn to calm our nervous system down, because that's what our nervous system is on really high alert. And the higher alert our nervous system is, the more intense we're feeling things and the more quickly we're feeling things in terms of emotions.
Yeah. I feel like I need to ask, just because I am a person who tells myself I don't have time, even though I know I do. How long would you think it would take to do a body check?
Oh, it can be really quick. So if you just Google on YouTube or wherever, there's even specific mindful apps, body scan. They have 2-minute body scans. They have 5-minute body scans. They can also be very hard to do initially. So I wouldn't suggest a long one, because a lot of people get frustrated that their thoughts wander and they're like, I can't even do the body scan. Yeah, fair. You've never done it before. I hear you. It's really, really hard. So I would start with a quick one, and then you can build your way up to longer ones. But they're like hour-long body scans for people who really want to sit there. I cannot do those. And some days I can't do, like, I've done meditation for so many years, body scans for so many years. There's days where I can't focus on 30 seconds of a body scan because there's so many thoughts going on. So I just want to normalize for people. It's not because you can't do it or you're new and therefore this isn't going to work. Even people who've done this for years or professionals, they can't always do it either. So just hold space, be kind to yourself when you're doing it.
Agree. To also make lists prior to, if I can.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Before I do it, so that way I'm not worried about forgetting the thing that I need to remember after I'm done doing this. That's also super helpful.
Yeah.
So I know T was mentioning before about a script that caregivers can fall back on or lean in on when they are in challenging moments. Would you recommend or suggest a soft script that caregivers can keep in mind?
Yeah, I like scripts. I like Post-it notes. I like, affirmations. I think that's a really great suggestion. Anything like, I'm okay. This is okay. I will get through this. I might need to ride the wave, but the wave will fall down, right? There's a peak to a wave, and then there's a valley to a wave. Anything that can kind of get you through those hard moments, but nothing too long. I think we have to have scripts that are on the shorter end of things. So for example, a few years ago, again, with my kids, because my kids really throw me for a ride a lot of the time.
It's not fun. So much fun.
I had a script on my phone that would pop up. Like, it would just pop up as an alert multiple times a day on my iPhone. And it would say, I am the pilot. I am not the passenger. because I had to remember that I am driving the parental plane. I am not in the back, right? Because if I'm freaking out with the passengers, no one is driving the plane. So I had that on my phone multiple times a day. So if you could have a pop-up or something you read or just something to ground you in that moment, something really simple is great.
So what I'm gathering is that we're doing a lot of simplicity in our care journey. We are using simple body scans, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, something that is accessible, like on YouTube, to find these body scan channels, and also using scripts that are short, compact, but get the job done.
100%. Right? That's exactly it. Yeah. Who has time to do more? I mean, T, you just said, I'm someone who thinks I don't have time. Caregivers don't. Like, that's just the reality. We do have enough time to care for ourselves. I will put that in there because I hear that a lot. But when it comes to the bigger picture of things, we don't have 2 hours to really like focus on these things, right? So we have to be very mindful of what we're doing because you're just going to run the other way.
100%. I feel like there may be 2 hours in a 24-hour day, but you're not going to get it all at once.
No. Yeah, I was just thinking about it, T. Like, it's going to be cut up throughout that day.
That's how you have to look at it. But I mean, that's also the caregiver experience. It is kind of cut up. You are taking care, especially for a sandwich generation, like you and I are. It's like you're having to split your time with multiple people and delegate and trust that the other person's going to do the things that they say so that you can continue to do your thing. So in between those times, yes, it's like, you take a break for lunch. You should also be taking a 2-minute break to do a body check, see how you are feeling.
Exactly.
It's such a hard thing to remember to do when you're caring for so many people because you're so worried about how everybody else is feeling. Yes. That's easy to forget about yourself, but your body will tell you clearly with this and the, like all the other
and the clenching of the jaw. Yeah. But you know what, T, that's so smart that you even brought that up because that's a really good insight on how important rituals are throughout the day to regulate our emotions. So if we built it into the routine, it wouldn't feel like, oh, I don't got time for this body scan. No, it's actually a part of your ritual, your routine. So if in the mornings you go make coffee and you set out your loved one's medications, that's when you could possibly do a body scan. Like, am I clenching my jaw right now? Are my shoulders a little too high right now? Okay, let's get it together.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. When you're breaking it up, it's much more attainable. And we do have 2 hours in 24 hours. A lot of people, they're doing 15 minutes, or half an hour and then half an hour. But when it's all at once, it's so daunting, right? Yeah, I love that suggestion. So good.
And wow, I feel like you just gave us back our power.
100%. Yeah.
Listen, I might be here talking about certain things, but you guys have so much knowledge that I don't have. Like, we help each other. I learn from you all the time. It's not just that I have the knowledge and you don't know. Like, I'm listening. I'm hearing from you just as much as you're hearing from me here.
We're a village. Oh my God, T, we were just talking about that yesterday. The village.
We're the village. We all have our own superpowers. Like, I think what's great about caregivers is that we all have a lot of things that are in common. We all have some same experiences, but then there's a lot of uniqueness that comes with it. And even the way that we speak and communicate with each other. But I always feel that with caregivers, there's like this telepathic intuition thing that we have attained and really works well with each other that we just kind of get. We don't have to explain a lot. And I love that about us.
I do. I love it too. Sometimes we just the visuals. Okay. Like girl. Right. Okay, girl. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Say less.
Right.
Well, Stephanie, we are curious, what would be a single message about mental health that you would want every caregiver to hear and truly believe?
Wow. Okay. Well, I think if it's anything, and you kind of just touched on it, but it's don't wait until your mental health is extremely poor to do something to intervene. It's actually about regular intervention and bite-sized intervention that will lead you to not go over the edge compared to nothing and going over the edge and bringing yourself back from 100 each and every time. that is not going to be productive, and you're actually just going to wipe yourself out. So regular, ongoing, bite-sized strategies compared to nothing and then just throwing it all at once.
If you had a choice to be in the healthcare system and be able to prescribe therapy, when you see them come into the office with their loved one, would that be the perfect time to be like, okay, we also need to get you into some type of...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The second that you see someone, a caregiver coming with someone, you say, listen, you might not have fallen off a ledge yet, so we're going to make sure that you stay off that. And we're going to put it in now. Right.
Perfect.
Man, would that be what a wonderful world that would be if people did that.
I agree. I mean, we can go off on a tangent about that, acknowledging caregivers and their validation and, not only the doctor's appointments, but just, in general. But
exactly.
I agree.
I fully agree. I'm doing research on that right now, it's funny you bring that up. I'm doing professional research and looking at literature to see what's out there in terms of where we missed the mark with caregiver interventions. And it doesn't start at the top at all. In fact, it doesn't start at all, like ever.
That makes sense to me. That's been my experience. That sounds about accurate. I mean, luckily in my situation, because I was caring for a veteran, they do have a caregiver program where you can get like a stipend, and they would give you a paper little card saying, hey, I'm their professional caregiver. I had to like try and laminate it to make myself feel better. But my point is that like, I was in the system to some extent that I was a caregiver and that I was getting paid for one. And even though I think all caregivers should be paid, to be paid really does give me the mental validity that I needed, that like, this is a job that I am doing. And it shouldn't take that to feel that way. But I do believe that is something that really should be taken more seriously, especially if they're on like their medical records, like as a person to call for emergencies, that should be when the patient shows up, that should be like, okay, where is this also other person that's supposed to be with them, and have a conversation with them on that.
Yes. And to clarify, I mean, when we walk into doctor's appointments or when we're in the hospital, right? Not, nuance, but exactly what you said before. The research shows that there is really very rarely an intervention, especially that early on. So
yeah, and it needs to stop. It's giving nonsense. I know like my experience was whack as all hell because I was going through it. And then when I was really like going down, I broke both my feet and then I had a spinal injury, all with the caregiving. Everybody's applauding. Everybody's like, oh my God, you're so resilient. Wow, way to go. I'm dying. Okay, that's how I feel.
Oh my God. I can't.
And it was a struggle. And then when my mom got on hospice. So for 10 years, I've been functioning as a caregiver like that. And I've been trying to practice self-care and make it sustainable. But I had so much opinions that made me feel ashamed of the self-care that I was not as disciplined with it as I knew I could be. But then the last 2 years of my mom's life, when she finally got on hospice, I was so amazed and impressed that she had an entire team. I mean, a full team. And then they had a little portion for caregivers. And it was like, oh, you can get counseling, and you can also get someone that you can talk to spiritually. Like, what? That's available? And that's when I started curating my experience. So instead of just having a regular doctor, now I was like, you know what? I'm going to look into getting a dietitian or a nutritionist. I'm also going to look into a personal trainer, whether that be the Peloton app or some channel on YouTube, or if I could actually afford it to go outside to the gym with working with a personal trainer, I'll do that too. And then just creating this situation for myself where I felt taken care of because I was actively doing it, but I also had other people keeping me accountable, checking in on me, making sure that I was doing it. So I think it needs to stop the nonsense. Caregivers also need support in a way that's going to allow them to continue showing up for themselves and their loved one. And I feel like we're getting there. I feel like it's growing to that place.
It's moving. I think you're absolutely right with hospice and palliative care. Like that is a very special place. I had very similar experiences to you. Not once was I offered something until my mom went to palliative care. And then it was like, whoa. And I just don't understand why it has to wait to that place. So I think in niches. And as you said, T, within the veterans area, I'm so glad they acknowledge it. But from a generalized perspective, we have to continue to work harder and make this not like oh, maybe we do it. No, this is a requirement. You come into the office, you're asking the caregiver what's going on. You're offering them supports. And if they don't want it, great. But at least
they know it's option when they're when they're ready.
Exactly.
I think that's the big thing.
You said something too that was really key. You said that it feels like it's a job. You're getting paid for it. Maybe you get insurance as well. You get those benefits. Then the mindset changes. But I feel like that happens whether you were a caregiver or not. When you have a job, it makes it more concrete. It's more real. This is yours. This is what you do. This is where you show up. So when you can make caregiving your job and you get the validation from either the paycheck or the insurance, the benefits or whatever, it does feel more real. You do feel more celebrated in a sense, recognized instead of the invisible caregiver trope. Now you're like recognized, like we're putting respect on that name, on that title.
Yep.
Yeah.
That also comes with going to every doctor's appointment, speaking up,
having a voice in the appointment, like someone giving you a voice. Right?
Absolutely.
A voice that people will actually listen to and acknowledge, like, oh, she knows what she's talking about, or he knows what he's talking about. Yeah, you're an expert. You got the data and you got, exactly. All the experience.
It feels, very validating, especially when, again, you may be caring for somebody who isn't always honest at the doctor's appointments for fear or whatever. Like, I allow them to speak, and then, then we go in, okay, but this is what's actually happening, okay, this is, so I was very fortunate to have pretty good doctors for the most part that, allowed the patient to speak, my loved one to speak, and then we would go over the data later, or I would give my questions and opinion.
So Stephanie, where can our audience find more about you, your resources, about compassion in caregiving? I know that's your brand. So where can our audience find out more about you?
Yeah, the best place is on Instagram. I'm on there a lot at Compassion in Caregiving, or you can go to our website, which is compassionincaregiving.com. And we have a podcast too, Caregivers Compass, where Nikki's been on it. Amazing episode. You can find that on almost all podcast sites, or you can find it on our website too.
Love that. We are so grateful that you were able to make space to have this conversation today. And guys, stay tuned for the next one.